Good afternoon, Mike Jones, Jacksonville's voice of real estate. Here with me, my sidekick and partner in crime, Cindy Jones.
Hey there,
And
I'm Cindy.
I'm of course, Mike Jones. We are glad you're here with us. If not, maybe you'll be getting a notification soon and you'll join in. If you're watching the replay as well, we are glad you're here. We hope that you'll share this video. If you have questions, by the way, we're here to talk about real estate in general, and we're also here to answer any questions that you might have about real estate. Maybe you're not in the market right now. I understand this might be boring to you, but if you're in the market to buy or sell a house, this might be right for you because we're going to try and get your questions answered live on the air. If we don't, we'll look at the comments as we go through the week, and we will answer either directly or we'll do it in the next live streaming, or we'll post a video because we are, after all, video people. To answer any questions that you might have about Cindy's going to mute that just so we don't have any issues, right? So, hey, what are we going to talk about today, Cindy?
So we want to talk to sellers. If you are selling your house right now, we want to talk to you about, could you be standing in the way of your own sale?
No.
There's lots of things that you could be doing that could cause you to be standing in the way of your own sale that you may not even be aware of right now, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
And the reason why we're doing this every week when we sit down and figure out what are we going to talk about today, it's because the time that's expired since our last show, these things come to our mind because we see them on a regular basis. And there's a lot of times when we're either going through the MLS or actually out showing homes, or we're actually talking to home sellers who had their house on the market and need to sell them now. We see on a daily basis what they're doing that could be sabotaging their home sale. So we're going to go ahead and talk about them. And by the way, you can always follow me over on Instagram if you like. I post a lot of really cool stuff there. And Cindy's going to open up a soda right now.
It's not a soda. It's actually just a LaCroix, sparkling water. So
I'm on Instagram. I like to post a lot of cool stuff there, not just about real estate. I do post real estate. I post things that I'm doing during the day. I post motorcycles. I post places that I'm at all the time, restaurants, shops, and things all around Jacksonville. So join me over there on Instagram at Mike Jones, Jax, Florida. We would love to see you there.
I'm sure you post a lot of things about Charlie, too.
I do post a lot of pictures about Charlie.
If you don't know who Charlie is, he is our yellow lab. Right now, he is crashed on the couch because he just got back from the farm for several days.
He's been there about 4 days. He's been gone.
Yeah, he's been gone playing with his best friend over there, a black lab, his best friend. And when he comes home, he has to sleep for 3 days because he's worn slap out. So
first he has to get a bath because he's usually filthy.
He's crashed right now, so.
Okay, so are you standing in the way of your own home sale? Number one, what's the one thing that's causing people to stand in the way possibly of their own home sale?
Before we get into that, I want to kind of describe to you what an agent, a realtor, goes through to get showings when a buyer is ready to go see houses. The buyer calls an agent and says, hey, I'm ready to see houses. They are usually setting up anywhere from 5, 10, 15 houses in one day. I have shown hundreds of buyers' homes. So I have done this numerous times. And every time we sit down and meet with a seller, when we're going to be possibly listing their home, I describe this to them so they can really understand what the process is that myself and other agents go through. Right now, there's about 8,300 agents just here in Northeast Florida. So this is what we do to set up showings so it will help guide you in the process and really help you understand. So like I said, we're going to be going to see usually 5, 10, or 15 houses. We usually don't just go out and see one house today, one house tomorrow, another house the next day. Usually the buyers they have a long list of properties they want to see. And as the day goes by, some of them may go under contract. So we are setting up these showings of the ones that are still active in the system. Now, most of the time, if a buyer is already here in Jacksonville, they know the area, they can say, hey, my kids need to go to this school, or I want to be in this area, I want to be in Middleburg, I want to be in Nassau County, they usually have a little bit of an idea of an area. Sometimes it's close to their work or whatever. So we have to kind of hone in. Most of the time we can hone in on an area, specific area, or at least a county. Now, just imagine a lot of people are coming here from out of state. They've never lived in Jacksonville. They've never even driven through Jacksonville. So they could be looking at houses from Nassau County to St. Johns County and over to Clay County. So you can imagine driving that distance in one day to show several houses can be quite a long time that we're going to be out on the road showing houses. It could be from morning till dark, literally. I've done this many times. So what happens is, we start showing, so hopefully you have a little bit of an area, a smaller area that you can make these showings in if you have a handful of houses. So obviously we know about what time we're going to get at the first house. Just say we're going to start there at 9 o'clock. We used to try to give an hour window to each seller, but we just have to try to figure out what that hour is going to be. So just say we're going to meet at the first house at 9 o'clock. We give about half hour that we're going to be there at the house, and then we have to say, well, where's the next house? We're going to give about 30-minute drive time to get to the next house. So the first house we're going to set up about an hour block from 9 to 10. The second house is going to be maybe 9:30 to 10:30. The third house is going to be 10:30 to 11, or 10:30 to 11:30. So we just try to give an approximation. Now, so when we say we'll be there from 11 to 12, we may not show up there till 11:30. Or it might be 5 after 12 till we get there. It's not going to be the exact time that we request. It just means somewhere in or around that time we may show up. And we try to get there. We try to get there as close to possible. But here's what happens, you guys. Just say I have set up 15 houses in one day. Okay? So just say that we're going to the first house, and now we're going to the second house. We drive it to the third house, and the buyers look out the window and they go, look at me. They don't even get out of the car, and they say, Cindy, you know what? Now that we see the neighborhood, that we've driven through it, it's just not what I'm looking for. Let's just go on to the next house. So now I'm ahead of schedule that I had already booked that hour slot for. So now obviously I'm going to get to the next house earlier than I expected. Or what can happen is we get to a house and they love it so much that they're there for an hour. Happens all the time. They're literally there for an hour. They go in the kitchen, they go in the backyard, they're in the bedroom, they come back out, then they go back through, and then they sit down and talk about it, and they go back through again. Oh my gosh, maybe this is the one, right? So they may be there for way longer than I had anticipated. So then we go ahead and go to the next house where now we're late. So as the day progresses, those times that we had slotted for those showings goes out the window. So here's what happens is, if your listing agent calls you and says, hey, we have a showing today between 2 and 3. Well, that agent, now you know why that agent may get there before 2 or even after 3. But the biggest problem is, just to go ahead and just kind of tell you, that's how it works with agents. And then also
with agents, when they're actually with buyers showing your house
to set up the showings. So, and here's what happens too. So say today I'm setting up all these showings to go show these buyers for tomorrow. You can bet that by tomorrow morning, 1 or 2 or more of those houses have now gone under contract. So those showing times that I've set for each hour, now I don't even have to show that house at all. So now I'm going to be way early for most all of the houses.
Well, let me just stop you. Let me just jump in there right now.
Sure.
So just say she has 10 houses on the books to show tomorrow. So today she sets up according to the map, because you don't want to drive on this side of town to this side of town to this side of town. So you put those things and you map them in an orderly fashion of how you want to get to them. Then you sit down and you call all the listing agents and you make the appointments for the appropriate times. Here's where the problem comes in. Anything can happen during those 10 showings. You can get caught behind an accident, traffic. Anything can happen. The showing could take longer. The house could go under contract. There's a multitude of things that can happen during that day. So If your listing agent called you and said, well, we've got a buyer, an agent that wants to show your home tomorrow between 12 and 1, and that agent shows up at 1:30, don't stand at the door and go, you know what, you're late for your appointment.
Right.
You'll have to reschedule.
Right.
That is the worst thing that you can do. And you got to understand that the agents are also working on buyers too, who may like she said, they may like a house that they're in for a moment. They want to stay longer, or they may not even want to get out of the car when they drive up to a house. There's all kinds of things that can happen. They can be there early. They can be there late. The schedule is just kind of a guideline. Yeah. So if you actually turn away a buyer because they're too early or they're late, then they're probably not going to reschedule for the next day to come back. There's too many houses for them to look at. And when they get there, they're probably hot, tired, and maybe even cranky, especially if it's the 10th house. They're definitely not going to be excited that you're not going to let them into the house. But I think what we want to get to is scheduling these appointments is not easy based on a geographical area. Mm-hmm. But when we call the office and say to the listing agent, hey, I want to show your house tomorrow between 1 and 2 or between 2 and 4. And then the agent says, okay, I'll call you back. And they call the seller and they say, well, they can't do between 1 and 2, but they can do after 5. That really throws a big wrench in things. So now the agent has to sit here and rearrange the map or start at the end. But that's the problem. If they've already set up appointments before yours, now they got to change to suit your seller or you as the seller's special time frame. Now they've got to go back and reschedule all those. Yeah. So that's what happens. And what happens is most of the time that the agent's not going to go back and try to reschedule all those. If they've got 10 houses to show and 9 of them have agreed to your times and 1 of them doesn't, guess what happens to the 1?
It gets thrown away. And your house does not get shown at all.
You cannot do that. And the other thing is that we have a lot of the home sellers I look at expired listings every day. That's my first thing that I do every day. And I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Christmas Day, Saturday, Sunday, holidays. It doesn't matter. Every day, the first thing I do is I grab a cup of coffee and I look on the computer and look at all the listings in my area that did not sell and came off the market. And you would be surprised that a large majority of them have showing time restrictions, whether it be they need 24-hour notice, or you can only show my house during the week between 1 and 5, or on the weekends you can only show it after 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So you can see where this creates a big problem, and is definitely one of those things that could be standing in the way of your own home selling success.
You know, while you're talking, I'm just happening to think, and then also you got to think about this. If we have a husband and wife who's both working, or one's working, the other whatever, they have their own schedules. They maybe have kids. They have schedules that they have to go around. So when they call their agent and go, hey, agent, we can see houses at noon on Saturday, from noon to 4 on Saturday. Then the agent has to go, oh, yeah, well, let me try to work. Now we have the agent to see, are they available as well? So right off the bat,
and the seller, will the seller allow it during that time?
Right. So you already have buyers who say, I can see houses between this time and this time, and the agent is trying to work with that schedule already. So that's the first thing that we're trying to work with. So just to try to make you understand what we have to deal with just to set up the showings. Now,
number one, don't restrict showings. Try not to have time frames and things like that. Your house, when you go to sell your house, this is a business transaction. Your house needs to be show ready all the time.
Mm-hmm. It's like
there's no way around it. Now listen, 24-hour notice on a house that's got tenants in it, that's understandable. If you've got tenants that live in a house, you have to give 24-hour notice, sometimes maybe even 48. I'm telling you, though, it's tough to sell a house with tenants in it. Mm-hmm. The other exception to that rule is if you have like a multi-million-dollar home, 24-hour notice is reasonable. Mm-hmm. If people that are looking at 24, $2 and $3 million houses typically don't look at 10 or 15 of them in a day. They've already pretty much discussed what they want with their agent. They've nailed it down. Here's what I want. This, or this, and that's it, and it kind of limits it. So 24-hour notice is not unreasonable on a high-end luxury home. What's the next thing that might be standing in the way of a successful home sale?
So if you're a seller and you're saying, hey, before any buyers come through my house, I need them to send over a proof of funds letter or pre-qualification letter before they come into my house.
Now that right there, and there's a lot of different ways to think about this. Some people say, well, the buyer doesn't want to give up their information, which may be true, or it doesn't matter. That's just one of those things. You need to depend on the showing agent to have done their due diligence before they actually get in the car with the buyer to find out if they're actually financially capable to buy the house that they're showing. Does it happen? Lots of times agents will jump in the car at the first sign of a hot buyer and they'll go show them anything. Sure, it happens. But you to throw an extra wrench in this whole thing, where, you know, like I said, there's 10 houses here. All of them are just going to let you go in and show it at the time you want. They're not going to require any special proof of funds and pre-approval letters prior to showing it. Just kind of makes your house stand out as, wow, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. And buyers really don't. It's hard enough to get buyers these days to get a pre-qualification letter ahead of looking at houses. Right. Now you want me to take that pre-qualification letter and send it to you before they've even seen your home? It's really not a good idea, and a lot of times the buyers are very reluctant to do that. A lot of times buyers don't even want to show you that until after you guys have agreed and accepted a contract or an offer from them. I would not accept or even consider an offer without a pre-approval letter with it or a proof of funds, but definitely don't require that before they actually come and see it.
Right. We want as many people to come see this house as possible.
Well, and here's another thing.
So restricting these is restricting, the buyers from coming in your house.
And here's another thing too. A lot of times buyers will get a pre-qual letter, just say for $300,000. They know that if they wanted to, they can go up. They've even talked to their loan officer, and the loan officer says, you're good to go up to $450, whatever you want. Yeah. And they may have looked at all the $300,000 houses and not found anything they like. Yeah. So now all of a sudden they're like, okay, Mr. Agent, show me some houses in the $350 to $400 range. They don't want to have to go get another pre-qual letter to send to you. This is just one of those things that can really, really derail you before they even see your house. Exactly. So let's don't do that either.
The next thing is okay. So the third thing is what you could be doing is if you're asking your listing agent to be present for all showings.
Now let me handle this.
Let's handle that. You handle that.
Because I have been on. We've had some listings, a lot of higher end listings, and where they've required us to be there, and I've decided that moving forward, any new listings where the seller requires me to do that, if I can't convince them not to do it, I'm not going to do it anymore. Here's why. Like she said, first off, you got to get a buyer and his wife or his parents or whoever is part of the decision process, plus their kids. They've got to arrange a day and a time where they can go see houses. Okay? Now they've got to get with their buyer's agent, their agent, to also arrange. They've got those. That's two sets of people that have to get their schedules together. Okay. In addition to that, already we have to get the seller okay with the time schedule as well. Hard enough. That's 3 parties, a minimum, that have to arrange their schedules to come see your house. If you require your listing agent to be present during the showings, guess what? Now that's one more person that has to be involved in the scheduling to show your house. Here's why it doesn't work. If you've got a good listing agent that lists a lot of properties and is active in the business and sells houses, their schedules are pretty booked up. So if you require your listing agent to be present for the showings, now besides that wrench, you're throwing in at least a 24-hour notice. Because most busy agents, they can't just drop everything they're doing and come show your house at any time of the day. Our schedules are usually booked a day or two in advance, minimum. So already, even at 24-hour notice, we've got to shuffle things around in order to accommodate that showing on our own listing. I know you don't want to hear it, but you can go hire an agent who doesn't do much business and require them to be there, but then everything else in your sale is going to fail.
Right.
So let's don't do that either. The best way to have your house shown is let a buyer's agent and the buyers come through your house undeterred.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word?
Absolutely.
Yeah, undeterred. You want them to go in and enjoy that house,
Right.
not feel any pressure. Listing agents cause pressure. Even if they don't say anything, they feel like it's just a little bird here following them around and stalking them. Don't do it. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's really not good to have a listing agent in the house because it feels like the seller is there when the listing agent is there. It really does, and that's another cog in the wheel. Another it's not a good thing to have.
Another thorn on the bush.
Another thorn on the bush. You
That's
don't
another
you don't want to have the listing agent there. Like you said, let the buyer's agent and the buyers go see the house without.
And that goes for another thing. As a seller, and if you've watched any of our videos and live streams before, one of the things that we always tell people, as a seller, you should not be present for showings.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's worse than even the listing agent.
Don't even wave at the buyers as you're leaving. Just leave. Just leave.
Well, and let me give you an example.
Yeah.
We had a very nice couple. House was listed about $580.
Yeah.
And they were in agreement that they would leave for all the showings. Well, just so happened, as they were walking out the door on a showing one day, the buyers were walking in. It was one of those times where they showed up a little early. It wasn't our buyer, it was another agent's buyer. Well, the buyers and the sellers saying in passing were hello, and they hit it off. And the buyer says, no, don't leave. Let's go show me your home. So here's what happens. Now everybody's excited. Everybody's all friendly. And, this could be the start of a really good relationship. They go through the house, and here's what the seller does. The seller says, well, yeah, there's a little problem with that garage door. There's a little rust. I'm going to fix that.
Oh, boy.
And you know what? The intercom system doesn't work, but I'll fix that too. See, as they're going through the house, because the buyer is so excited, oh, I love your house. It's just beautiful. It's everything I wanted. I could see my grandkids coming to visit and stay here and swimming in the pool. The seller's thinking, oh, they're going to pay my price. They're going to give me a full price offer. So as the seller's moving through, at the same time, the buyer's thinking, well, I'm not going to offer them full price, but the seller's making all these promises. I'm going to replace the roof on the guest house. I'm going to fix the intercom system. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Everything's honky-dory. The buyers and the sellers leave. They eat cake and coffee, whatever, right? Yes. They leave. They go back and sit down with their agent, and they start to write up an offer. The offer comes into the buyer, $50,000 low.
Seller.
Guess what? To the seller. Guess what? Now the seller doesn't want to fix all those things that they promised the agent or the buyer that they would do.
At that price, I'm not fixing nothing. That's what they're saying.
Can you see how that can cause a problem? Well, the buyer's like, well, then I'm not going to pay for it. I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
Just causes a bunch of problems. Another thing that I had happen to me one time. Showing a house. Seller was present. Wasn't my listing. Seller was present. They like to drag you through the house and show you things that's important to them and is exciting to them as the owner that really has no...
The buyers aren't interested.
Buyers aren't interested. Yeah. Case in point. Seller had just installed new toilets, and he was so happy because they were 3 inches higher than a standard toilet. You're further up off the ground. He tried to sell those people that house based on that. And I could just see it in the buyer's eyes. They're just like, let me out of this house now. So what's important to you as a seller in a house is not necessarily important to the buyer. So you showing them around and trying to sell them the house has the opposite effect. It really does. I see it all the time.
The other thing that sellers tend to do, and this is all in what they think is, oh, let me just let them know that. Another thing that sellers do is they tell the buyer the reason they're moving. They give up their position in the whole deal.
Yes.
Oh, I bought a condo down in such and such, and I paid way too much for it. And then I also bought an RV, and I paid way too much for it. But I got to sell. I get out from underneath of this house before I can go off. Do my cross country with my RV. Don't give up your information to the buyer.
You might be giggling. You might be thinking that doesn't happen, but it does.
It happens.
It happens every day. We see it all the time when we're working with buyers and things like that. So that's the whole thing. Hire an agent. Let the agent handle the marketing, handle the contract, handle the agents, handle the showings. You just need to leave. Keep your house show ready and leave when there's a showing. Do not engage the buyers, because I promise you, at some point during the deal, you're going to meet them anyway, and it's going to be hard enough. here's what happens. You get the agents that actually go and put the contract or the deal together, and everything's on paper the way it should be, because you don't want any verbal agreements in a real estate transaction. Then what happens is, like during the home inspection or at some other point, somehow the buyer and the seller get together and make these little side deals. And the agents might not even be privy to it. It's not in writing. And then by the time the closing comes, the buyer and the seller are bickering because, well, the sellers told me they were going to do this, and the seller's like, no, I told you I was going to do this, or I was going to do it this way. Causes a big ball of tension, and it can
derail the whole entire deal.
You may have heard me say this before.
It has happened.
I will never forget the time when the buyer walked away from the table because he said that during the home inspection, the seller was going to replace a patch of dead grass around the mailbox. Around the mailbox, a patch of dead grass. If you think it doesn't happen, just go with us for a day to show properties.
I'm telling you.
They have cops, where people can ride along with the cops.
Oh, yeah, Live TV. I love
They ought to have it where,
Live RE. Live real estate.
Yeah.
Come on. We should do that.
Maybe we will.
I think we might do that.
We need to see if we can get insurance coverage for that.
It can be the smallest thing that will derail the entire deal. And we've had it before where, like I said, the buyer and the seller, they end up getting their phone numbers and their emails, and they're talking, and the realtors don't know what's going on. So you don't do that. Don't talk about, like I said, when you leave to go on the show, and don't even wave at the buyers if they're pulling in the driveway. Just go on out. So we talked about several things did we talk about everything? We
did.
We talked about several things that you could be doing, and some people are doing all of these. So think about what you're doing when you're having showings and you're actually showing your house. And if you try not to do any things and let all of the buyers in as possible, you're going to be doing your the best deal.
And let me just tell you something right now. This happened to me on one of my listings. About 90 days into it, I guess the seller was fed up with showings, and because of the feedback, I guess, and I guess he came up in his mind, well, he had a preconceived notion of who the buyer was, who the buyer profile was that was going to buy his house, and he decided that he was going to tell me, well, I don't want this house to be shown to anybody with kids under 12 years old. First of all, I almost went and got my sign and lock box and completely just voided out their listing agreement because, number one,
that's right. That's
a violation of the Fair Housing Act.
We've been in so much trouble.
That's a familial stat. You can't discriminate. It's a protected class.
Right.
Familial. Say that word. Familial status is a protected class. Can't do that. You cannot discriminate against any buyer for that. So first off, that will get you in so much trouble. Not to mention your agent. He's luckily that he understood.
Yeah.
Where I gave him an education that day and said, here's why we can't do it.
Right.
And I'm going to come get my lockbox right now and sign, and we'll just forget we ever met each other. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it is. It's real bad.
You do not know who the buyer is that's going to buy your house. If anybody in the world knew that, well, we'd save a bunch of money on marketing.
We could just mail them a letter and say, hey, you're going to buy this house, just go ahead and
exactly. We've sold houses to people that didn't match anything that they said that they wanted in a house.
Absolutely.
I remember she set me up. She was actually working with the buyer, but she had to go out of town, so she handed it over to me, and I threw some things together, and I knew that the lady didn't want a 2-story house, and one of the houses I was just really hurried, try to get her some listings to show her. She was adamant she didn't want a 2-story house, did she?
Yes.
We pulled up to this house, and there it was, a 2-story house, and worse yet, it was on a busy corner. Just traffic. Zoom, 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 zoom. I'm like, I got out of the car. I'm so sorry. I don't know how this got mixed up in the mix. She goes, oh, well, we're here. We might as well go in there and see it. She fell in love with it. The minute she walked in the door, this is the house. So you don't know who the buyer is that's going to buy your house. They might not even know that they would like that their house would fit what they were looking for. I've sold many houses, and Cindy has too, that did not fit the description one bit that the buyer originally said. So let's don't discriminate against anybody. Home sellers, listen to your agents. That's a huge violation of the law. Can't do it, won't do it, never even think about it. Okay? So what else we got?
We have a new listing.
We do have a new listing. And it is actually out
There it
at
is.
Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Now this is in Ponte Vedra Beach. It's between Nocatee and the beach. It's a beautiful house. It's about $650,000. It's a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, 2 stories. Beautiful inside. Has a nice kitchen with stainless appliances. Beautiful solid surface countertops. A big old open floor plan. This is the master bedroom right here. This is the closet. Check that out.
So nice.
Very nice. This is a loft upstairs. Overlooks a beautiful lake and a screened-in in-ground pool as well. This is a very nice house. Like I said, it's listed at about $650,000, and we would be happy to show it to you. It's actually going to be coming on the market soon. The sellers are getting ready to move out and have it professionally cleaned and painted, and it will be ready to go. So if you know anybody that's looking for a house in the Ponte Vedra Beach area, let us know. Like I said, we'd appreciate it. I'd appreciate it. Cindy's not on Instagram, but I am. If you'll follow me at Mike Jones Jacks, Florida, Mike Jones Jacks FL, we'd appreciate it. Now, if you're buying or selling a house and you're watching this video from anywhere in the United States and you don't have a realtor, you need help finding a realtor, we've been in the business for a very long time. We've got relationships with real estate agents all over the country. And if you'll call us and let us know, we'll ask you a few questions, whether you're buying or selling, what you're looking for, what you're wanting to do. We can hook you up with not just any agent, but the right agent
For you.
to suit your needs, not theirs, yours. So our number's on the screen. If you have any questions, call us, text me. You can put a comment in the YouTube's comment section. Wherever you're watching this video, I'm going to put it on Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. If you're watching this and you're here now, you can contact us and we'll be glad to help you in any way we can. Anything else?
We're here every Thursday at 3.
Yes, we'll be
Right.
here next Thursday at 3 as well. We hope that you enjoyed the show, and we hope to see you next week.
Goodbye.